Life isn't perfect, and neither are we.
Nope. But we know how to face our fears
And have some fun.
and talk about all the messiest things of life.
Like the messiest things.
Get connected to yourself, get connected to others, and get connected to the life right in front of you.
This is The Connected Life with Justin and Abby.
That's me.
That's you.
And you.
I was reading a study recently. And
Did we start already?
yeah, totally.
That was so natural. I thought you were just having a conversation with me.
Oh, I am just having a conversation with you. When did it stop being one on the podcast?
Yeah, no, that is true.
So I'm reading this study recently, and they said 9 out of 10 parents across the board
Are idiots. Just screw up their kids.
When polled, said that they believe that their children are deeply annoying.
This is such bull.
No,
This
hold
is
on.
not a true thing.
Hold on. And then that same group of parents was polled, and it was and 10 out of 10 parents said, when polled out of that same group, what would you tell other people, like single people who didn't have kids yet, that children are wonderful and worth it? And 10 out of 10 of them said yes.
Are you making up this?
It goes to prove
making this up.
that parents are liars, caught in a trap that they can't get out of, and they want everyone else to commiserate with them. So they trick young, unsuspecting couples into having children and totally destroying their lives. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
No, I made that up. That's not, I made that up. But I believe it. It feels true.
Because I've been in so many moms groups where the entire thing is them like saying how hard it is. Which I agree.
Terrible.
It is hard. It is.
Kids are so difficult. I lost my sex drive. I don't have intimacy with my husband any longer.
Yeah, everything's horrible. But
we're
then
broke.
I watch those same people convince other people you need to have kids.
Those same people will come up to somebody who doesn't have kids and be like, why don't you have children yet? Yeah. Do you know that children are a blessing? You need to have children.
It's because they're both. It's because it's everything in life. It's like marriage. I would say that about marriage. Marriage is the worst and the best.
Whoa, what?
Yes.
Newsflash to me over here. Where's this worst crap coming from?
Well, marriage is hard and glorious. Children are hard and glorious.
Do you know 5 out of 5 moms believe that their children are psychopaths?
Yes. Such BS.
From the ages of 2 to 18.
You're just making crap up. Oh, gosh.
And those are mothers, the quote unquote nurturing ones. Believe their kids are
the quote unquote nurturing ones.
They're psychopaths.
That's not true.
Yeah, kids. We don't have them. Yeah.
Wait, what?
Okay, so let's talk about our child journey, starting with our dog.
Wait.
Okay, so we got a dog, which we talked about
in the podcast,
and I posted on Instagram, and
so excited.
I slowly removed pictures of that dog after the 2-week time period of owning that adorable animal that was not conducive to a freedom-filled lifestyle. Also, I was on the back end of my panic attack season.
Yeah, you were coming out of a nervous breakdown.
If anyone ever listens to those episodes again on that, it was actually a really good gift, and it helped get me activated. Those 2 weeks, that dog pulled me out of my panic attacks and reminded me.
You had to go for a walk every day.
I had to go for a walk every day, and I had to pull it all together and take care of it. And it was super helpful up until that lady bought it from us and changed its name to Bo.
I love that you call it, not like he or like our puppy.
Well, he, but that like she stripped him of his name that we'd given him. But it's now he's Bo. The irony is now we have another dog on the way.
Wait. The irony is my grandparents named every dog they had Bo.
Really?
Every single dog.
I didn't know that.
Bo every time. So it's not like you have to remember the new dog's name. And I thought part of
it's better off if let's just call it the same thing. We'll never forget.
I was like, I don't know what I feel about this because like no dog has its own
what
personality.
What happens if they had multiple dogs? They're all Bo. They all come running.
But I thought it was kind of clever for memory's sake. Like, you're never like, what's the name of this dog? And you never had to be like, you know that dog we had, what was his name? Like, it's always Bo.
No. And when people get introduced to the new dog, they're like, what? Bo.
Oh,
that's convenient. But that dog did not want to bond.
The dog that we had?
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't feel like it bonded. It
wanted to hide under the couch.
It
all the
bonded
time.
to the lady that bought it because when you take more than 2 weeks with the dog, it bonds.
It had a weird emotional problem.
Okay, here's, in case people don't know, years ago, Justin was in a nervous breakdown and thought he needed a dog to help him out of the nervous breakdown.
And what was happening inside of my soul was that it needed comfort and connection.
And you thought a dog could do that.
And I was delivered a dog to my doorstep and it was like, okay, this is a really cool story. It's here.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I don't actually want this dog. I just realized I needed comfort after I got it.
Can we just tell the story though of how I thought it was such a bad idea to get a dog. But I was like, if your soul needs one, because I'm traveling at that point, I was traveling like 3 times a month, which is a lot of time.
You bought into this dog fully.
Yeah, because you wanted it.
Soul got sold out.
Yeah, I took care of it every day. I stayed up in the middle of the night, all the night with it, because you were in a panic attack season.
It's true.
So I was like, I will take care of this puppy. And then all of a sudden you wanted to get rid of it and I had bought in.
You were so frustrated with me about that. It's weird. I don't understand why. It was my dog. It
was your dog that I took care of.
Well, I don't know. No, that didn't happen. You've remembered this incorrectly. It's not through the filter of my denial. You're remembering it wrong. So then my mom decides that she...
Wait.
What? Go. Okay.
Did you ever process with listeners about the shame you had about getting rid of the dog?
No, I had a deep amount of shame about getting rid of that dog. I was so excited about it and shared about it, and then I got rid of the dog. And then it was like this thing of just don't talk about it again. People forget it happened. You did have a dog. That's right. And everyone's like, oh yeah, that was a story that was kind of inspiring. What the hell happened there?
But I was like, who cares if people think it's dumb that we got a dog and got rid of it? We need peace in our lives.
Yeah, well, it was a necessary part of my journey. It was actually, I look at it and I'm not just making up a story that fits it. I was like, that was really helpful. Anyways.
I just want to say this. In case you're in a nervous breakdown and you want a puppy because you think it'll fix it, I'd recommend getting a maybe animal from the animal shelter that's already trained.
A support dog that's been trained already.
Yes.
There you go. So then my mom, because this is all tying into today's conversation.
All of this is leading somewhere. I promise you,
it sure is. It'll all be great. So then my mom, because she doesn't have grandkids, gets a kick inside her. She doesn't know that. Still, she'll hear this fresh and she'll be like, holy shit, they called me. Maybe that's true. But she decides she wants grandkids. I know it.
We don't have kids and your sister doesn't have kids. And she wants, and she's been very kind. She's never pressured us.
No, never once. But we were around her dogs and we were enjoying one of their long-haired miniature Dachshunds, little wieners.
Little wiener, a long-haired wiener.
They got a couple of little wieners. And this...
You also have a big wiener.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so the little long-haired one...
Not even a laugh.
Just going to keep going. Just going to breeze past it. So we're like, this is adorable. And she was like, you guys, I want to give you a gift. And I'm like, what is that? And it wasn't, I want to buy you the dog. I want to raise a dog for you, which... Right.
I'm going to train the dog.
I want to train a dog for you, and then I'll give it to you. You guys can buy the dog, but and then you can have it. And then if you really don't want it, I'll take it back, but you're going to want it.
Yeah. But the funny, which I thought was the most generous gift somebody could give.
Who gives a gift like that?
Yeah, she's like, I'll take care of all the worst. Yes. I'll take all of the worst issues, and then I'll give it to you once it's like a good dog. Yeah.
She was talking recently about how when we're out of town and they live here, she can babysit the dog.
Yeah.
And we have it with her other dogs, which again, grandma mode is kicking in for her.
She's in such grandma mode. And I felt
it's the sweetest thing ever.
Loved by it. And also thought that is probably the closest thing she'll get to a grandchild soon.
So that happens.
But The funny thing is that she also really wants the dog. So she's like, if you don't want it, I'll take it.
Which is the only thing that allowed me to even say yes to it at this point. Because I'm like, the pressure's really off. I could keep it for about a month and send it right back to her and be like, yeah, you know.
You can tell we got real commitment issues when we're still concerned if we should get a dog or
Massive
not for a
commitment
month.
issues. You know what it is, though? It's
we've had a rough life.
It's the energy that it takes. It's the time that it takes. It's the interest into the thing that it takes. It wants your attention. You know, it's like, hey, walk me, play with me.
Well, okay, but
so
honestly,
it's not really a commitment issue as much as it's a commitment
lifestyle
issue.
Yeah. A lack of freedom issue.
Yeah, I don't want
Here's
my freedom
the thing,
stolen.
though. Both me and you got so crazy sick in the last decade.
It's true.
That I think you were either taking care of me or I was taking care of you or we were both sick.
Yeah, we each had children as it was.
Yeah. So
adult children.
Yeah. So I think we didn't want an extra
No.
dog.
Another extra expectation pulling from us.
So today, what we're going to do, all of that was a lead up. And it actually, both of those stories are so relevant to what we're talking about.
Yeah, and it's good because it could be a heavy episode. I don't know, but it's funny to start out this way.
Yeah. I am a little nervous. This probably feels like the most vulnerable podcast I've recorded.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Not vulnerable to me at all.
That's so true. It isn't vulnerable to you at all.
Nope, not a chance.
Yeah, no, just vulnerable for me. And I have sat on this topic for probably 2 years, thinking one day I'll share it with the world. And we, for those of you who don't know, we run a course called Living Fully Alive, and we have an immersion program with it where we meet with people live and go through the content. And then we have an extension course for it also. And we were having a session with this last group, and they were such a good group, and there was so much love and connection that I ended up sharing this journey a little tiny bit.
Yeah, a little snippet.
And they said it was really impactful for them. And I thought, you know what, it might be time to open this can of worms that I've been avoiding opening publicly for years. Literally have never talked about it.
I'm just going to sit here and stare at you until you drop the bomb.
Okay, we're talking about our kid journey.
We're talking about our kid journey.
I
want to start off.
Oh, okay.
No, go ahead.
I wanted to start off with, this is something I value about us, and I think it'd be good for people to hear, is that we are really vulnerable on this show, but we're also not. Like, we're vulnerable regularly, but we also process things through. Like, there's things going on in our lives that we're deeply processing that we're not sharing in real time, because there are some things that are sacred and important to make sure you're on your own journey with.
Yeah.
And I mean, our friends are involved in that, but it's not public. And I think social media has created this world where you can see the outside of people's lives so much. And now vulnerability is trendy. And so people are just sharing everything in real time all the time. And I think it's valuable to have things that you hold on to close to you until you're actually ready.
Yeah. Well, to start this story off, I want to kick off on it because this was a very interesting journey for us as a couple who is on the road to marriage. Mm-hmm. When we originally got together and were leading up towards the potential of marriage type thing, the unspoken investigation that was happening, at least on my end, I think I initiated it. Maybe I think I initiated the dialogue.
We both
kind of like openly talking about it. Yeah. And I remember saying like, yeah, I don't plan on ever having kids. I don't want kids. I thought it was pretty blunt. It was very straightforward. So, that's really how that story went on my end. You
just wanted to get your side in first. This is what happened.
I don't want kids.
We got married and we were discussing birth control after we got married. And Justin was like, why don't I just go get a vasectomy? And I was like, what? What are you saying?
It only made sense. It was sensible.
It made sense to you. I was so offended and mad and angry and sad. Oh, yeah,
your aggression. Now you're talking about it, I'm like, maybe I have post-traumatic stress disorder over that one. You were just like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was a real... It was a real doozy for me because the conversation we had about kids, I thought went like this. I thought you said, I don't want kids now.
Yeah.
And I was
that
like,
would never come out of my mouth.
And I was so relieved because I didn't want kids right away either. I had just got done raising my parents. So I was like, I need a break. I don't want to caregive for a little while. You're right. Like I'd caregived a lot for my mom. And so when we got to marriage and you were like happy to go get a vasectomy, the thought had never occurred to me to not have kids. Kids were like my biggest dream. I grew up wanting, I'm
still having my mind blown as this is being re-talked about right now in this
how
moment.
much we missed it.
How is this possible?
I don't know how we missed it, except I know that I wouldn't have married you if I would have known you never wanted kids.
Yeah, you would have missed out.
I sometimes wonder if there was like one of those magical miscommunications.
Uh-huh.
Where like it's the only way that we stayed together.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you had told me, no, one day I want children at that point in my life, it would have turned into a war between the two of us. And
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would have. I think it would have been done.
Or I might have been like, over time I'll chip away at her and this will work.
Anyway, it was a very big shock when we got married and I found out you didn't want kids. And we had to process a lot around that because I was like, I actually don't have control over I mean, there's birth control. You can do that. But I mean, my best friend grew up in a family where 4 out of the 6 kids were conceived on birth control.
Wow.
So I was not
Doug
like...
has some powerful sperm. What a Superman.
He's Superman. Oh, sometimes you just slide things in there. That's so funny. So I was really concerned because I was like, I can't fully control this. We can use whatever we do, but if I get pregnant, I can't handle you being angry. I can't handle you being devastated. I can't handle you being depressed. Like it's going to be a lot for me to process if I get pregnant, and I can't be terrified of your reaction.
Right.
So
you couldn't handle just even me if I was devastated and going, what did I get into? Because I had I did have a really broken perspective at that point. Does it matter to share that?
Yeah, I'd like you to share that.
As far as my pain point was I hated little Justin. So my view was Justin as a little boy destroyed mom and dad's life. Like if he had never been born, then they wouldn't have had a bad life because there was so much frustration and anger inside of the household. It felt
aimed at you.
Felt aimed at me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was this idea of like, okay, children destroy your life. Justin destroyed their life. And so this self-hatred that I didn't know it, subconscious, but I could always feel like the language I would give when I really got honest and examined things is that I hated my unborn children. Like that's the language I had. I could gather together and be like, it's so weird. I feel like they're destroying my life. They're about to destroy my life. They're going to come into my world. I can't stop them from coming into my world and they'll destroy my life.
Yeah.
And, for lack of emotional intelligence that I had back then, I didn't know how to like navigate the investigation to go, what does that say about me? Yeah.
What does that emotion represent?
Yeah. What does it represent and stuff? So, there was actually quite a journey for me to go on of self-love and healing over the little boy and acceptance of him and realizing he didn't destroy anyone's life. He was a gift that got me to a point where I was like, oh, I could totally have kids.
I think it'd be worth you sharing a little bit about that journey.
Of healing with the little boy?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't even know if you're asking me on the spot to reflect on that. And there's
so many different moments.
There's so many different moments.
One of the things that I'll say is you purposely postured, something that we both kind of did is we purposefully postured in how do we love this person that we're with. And I know a lot of people don't know how to do that, but
the person that we're with in the mirror?
I actually meant me and you.
The person across from us. Yeah.
Yeah. So like you actually were like, if Abby really, really wants kids, I want to be able to go on the journey of removing any blocks that I have.
Yeah. And I even went on the journey of investigating with other fathers or parents that seem to love their children. Like
seems to love it.
They seem pretty generally happy with their kids and not trying to pawn them off on other people all the time. I should ask them. And so I started having a lot of dialogues as a side note about how they felt about their kids, which started pushed up a lot of things inside of me personally.
From your childhood.
From my childhood, as I was like, oh my gosh, they're talking about how much they love spending time with their kids and teaching their kids and getting involved in these different ways and learning about their children and what their children like and don't like. And they're not feeling frustrated about, that somehow these kids are burdens. And I'm like, oh my God, what is going on inside of me? There's so much pain. There's ache happening. And that revealed a lot to me as I did that. And
where you're like, I didn't experience somebody who felt like they were glad to be my parents.
Right.
I didn't experience fathering where it felt like I wasn't a burden.
Right.
And it kind of contrasted to you. And I really loved watching you do that. There's something about somebody purposefully and intentionally going on a journey in order to grow their heart in an area. And that's what you did with kids. You did. You found fathers who loved parenting, and you engaged them and asked them and listened, and you checked in with your heart, and you did counseling sessions and inner healing sessions.
Yeah, I did a lot of that.
And do you remember talking about the cave in your heart that you were building for me? One time I had a conversation with Justin where he said, I keep visualizing you saying that you're pregnant, and I keep visualizing these positive, happy emotions, and I'm building a cave in my heart so that if it ever happens, I have these emotions to pull from. Do you remember that?
I don't remember saying that, but I'm sure I did.
And then you're like, so if you come and tell me that you're pregnant, I actually will have something to pull from to be excited. And then he'd say, and then in secret, I will go to all my friends and talk about how devastated I am. But I mean, I felt really loved because you were purposefully, intentionally engaging that journey. And you really were like, Abby, if you really, really want kids, I'll go on the journey with you.
Yeah, I was absolutely willing to do that. I wasn't going to be hardened about that. And I was going to buy in. And one of the things that I always wanted, based on my childhood brokenness, was I wanted to be able to be in a position to actually choose a child if I was going to have a child. I wanted to be fully involved and give attention and help, be excited about them, knowing very well that there were going to be days that I was going to be like, I need to find a babysitter that can take this kid far away from me. But
totally, as all parents.
But where it would be something that would be an adventure or a journey that I would happily engage in. I wanted to get myself to that place. So
yeah. And so I really love that. And I think that that's part of the reason we actually never butted heads on kids after the initial first year of trying to figure out what does this mean. And I think I was terrified that you would stubbornly hold on to your side, and you were probably terrified I'd stubbornly hold on to my side. And then we kind of quit future tripping, and because we knew we don't want kids now. So let's just both go on our individual heart journeys and see where it ends up. And honestly, there's been a lot of grace in this area for us.
Yeah, there has.
And I know can be a really big pain point for a lot of people. And even in dating, it's one of the things that I think is a good non-negotiable. If you really want kids, choosing somebody who doesn't, I think is a bad idea.
Yeah.
Unless you guys both are both of us are willing to lay down our desire for the other person.
Yeah.
It has to be that you fully are willing to do that. So I think it's a big deal, but I always felt like there was a lot of grace in our relationship. We didn't fight about it.
No.
We didn't do anything. And
yeah, I mean, I think I tried to purposely not talk about it, so I'd hope you'd just forget about it altogether. I kid.
Yeah. I kid. And then I think the first few years of marriage were crazy enough. In our marriage, there was so much anger and intensity that it seemed like I for sure was I will not have a kid in this.
Yeah.
I knew that if I had a kid while we had a marriage like that, I would have to divorce you or something. I was I know that I wouldn't let a kid be in an environment like this, which probably should have told me something.
Yeah.
Probably should have alerted me. This is really crazy. Mm-hmm. But the concept was I can handle this, but if there was a kid in this environment, I would want to separate away from this kind of a culture. So That became a part of the kid journey for me and not wanting kids. And then as time went on, I ended up getting really sick. And I had struggled with sickness on and off my whole life. And for those of you who are new, I grew up with a mom who was really sick physically and mentally. And that led to me taking care of her physically and mentally. And there was a lot of pain in my childhood from my mom's inability to live life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I want to say this because I'm friends with this woman who's been sick for years, and she has kids, and she's an incredible mom.
Yeah.
And her kids
I know who you're talking about.
have a great life, and she does it very well. And so because I know there's a lot of women out there who are moms who are sick, and that's not a choice you're making.
Right.
You know, like I know my best friend Pizzi, after she had kids, it messed her hormones and her body up, and she has struggled with so much sickness. And so I want it to be known that I don't think that sickness makes you a bad mom.
Yeah.
I think that my mom quit momming.
Right.
And I think that like I've seen women who are sick not do that.
Yeah. Fight real hard for their families.
Mm-hmm. And for their mental health, and to live life well in the midst of that struggle. So I think, but this is the journey that we're trying to talk openly. I had so many wounds from my mom.
Yeah.
That the idea of having kids while I was that sick sounded horrible to me.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do to some, I think I can now look back and see that I was in trauma for most of my childhood. I can now look back and see how bad it was.
Right.
I didn't know it was that bad in the beginning of our marriage. Didn't know it was that bad until probably the past 4 or 5 years. Mm. That's when I started recognizing all of the signs and the symptoms and the things of trauma that was going on. But now I can look back and say, oh, I knew I didn't want kids while I was sick because I was so traumatized as a kid that the idea of I couldn't separate that if I had kids, I wouldn't traumatize them in that same way.
Right. Didn't want to put them through the same thing.
And so it felt like I'm protecting these unborn kids. And I don't know that that's right or wrong. Like, I want to be honest. I could probably offend everybody in this podcast.
Yeah. I'm offended right now.
Because there's going to be a lot of things that you hear that trigger you, because this is one of the biggest triggering topics is motherhood. And having kids or not having kids. And everybody has huge triggers around it because every mom is terrified of destroying their kid's life.
Yeah.
And then every woman who doesn't have kids has all the triggers around not having kids, whether it's how people treat them or look at them or their desires or what. This is just a huge triggering subject. So what I want to make clear is I'm just talking about my personal journey. I'm not making any generalities or like this is actually truth about things.
Right.
So for me...
Thanks for the qualification so that we don't get way too many messages of people screaming at us.
They're like, kids are a gift. I know they're a gift. They're a gift all my friends enjoy. I'm just kidding. I enjoy my friends' gifts a lot. No, I'll get to kids are a gift. But for me, there was a lot of terror and trauma. And I think that's what I was saying. I don't need you guys to write in and try to explain the other side because we're talking about our healing journey. Don't think we're stuck in one moment of it. Uh-huh. But so that was for years. I avoided it. And I think this is how our hearts talk to us a lot. Like my heart was trying to tell me, you have pain here.
Yeah.
It was screaming it through, don't have kids, don't have kids, don't have kids yet. And I remember everybody saying like, you'll never be ready for kids. That's like a comment that every parent gives.
Yeah. Because they weren't ready when they did it. Yeah.
And there is no way to be fully ready. I get that. But what people didn't understand is if you've been really, really, really sick, the idea of deliberately adding less sleep, deliberately adding more physical pain, deliberately adding more responsibilities.
Yeah.
If you are already surviving your life, deliberately adding more can feel overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so it was, I think there's been probably, I'm a middle ground human where I've had less trauma than some women in this area. And then also lots of painful things, lots of painful conversations with people who didn't seek to understand why I didn't have kids, who just gave me their opinions. And
strong ones too. People come out of the woodwork on this issue and just think they know what's best for you and they're gonna like give it to you.
Yeah. No one asked why I didn't have kids. No one wanted to understand me or have compassion on where I was at, but people did want to tell me what was right and what was wrong and what I should feel or shouldn't feel. Yeah,
I probably could remember maybe a handful of people the entire process throughout all 13 years of marriage actually having a compassionate stance and be like, you don't need to have kids if you don't want to. It's no one's business or stuff like that. It was very nice.
Yeah, we've had some really good responses.
Mom and dad have been very compassionate with that.
Yeah, your parents have been awesome.
They've been actually super incredible.
I remember it started to become like a joke because people would pray for me all the time to have kids. I think they just assumed you've been married and you don't have kids. You must be trying and can't.
Yeah.
And like, I'm praying for a miracle. And I remember in the beginning, I literally would, as a joke, put my arms across as an X over my like ovaries and be like, I'm blocking that prayer. And then I would just joke about it because it felt like invasive, like they were trying to make a decision for me. Yeah. Like they wanted to pray that my body would miraculously conceive when I was like, I don't want my body to
you didn't even try to
yet.
Investigate if I did want children.
Totally.
Why are you wanting something so strongly for me?
Yeah. And it felt like so I made that as a joke where I would like joke around with people like, because it felt like I wanted to be able to have a boundary. I wanted to be able to like, I want to be able to make some decisions on my life. And if you have listened to our podcast, I've shared a little bit about this. I have had hormone problems since I was 12. Horrific hormone problems. Horrible ones. And the doctors have said that pregnancy would either fix my hormone problems, make them extremely worse, or they would stay exactly the same. So very clear direction. But I have known so many people, including, my mom, where pregnancy actually made their hormones worse. And so for me, pregnancy became a thing that I really had to process because I was like, my body is already so screwed up in this, and here I am. I can't handle more pain. I can't handle being crazier. I can't handle having more problems. And so now I want to partner that with, as long as we've talked about our faith on this podcast before, I've always had this belief that if God spoke to me, because God has asked, like I have felt God be involved in like leading me and not like audibly speaking to me. Sometimes maybe, but sometimes more just intuition and doors opening and everything in your life aligning and a desire all of a sudden sparking. And there's so many ways that I've been moved to do something that I never wanted to do. Like moving to Redding would be one of them. Totally. Like we said, we'd never live here. And then all of a sudden it felt like that desire started coming up and then all these doors started opening.
We just trusted and went for it. And anytime that something like that's happened, we've said yes to
I love adventures.
Yeah.
I love adventures. I love faith journeys. I love trust journeys. So I was really happy to actually, like I prayed all the time, God, if I'm supposed to have kids, if now's the time, and even when I was at the height of being sick, because I have so much faith, I'm like, if I felt led to it or I felt pulled into it or I felt the desire, if I felt any of the right conditions happen, I would have jumped. Even if it didn't logically make sense. Fear has never been the thing that has held me back. If I can feel a yes inside. Yeah. And so I honestly prayed all the time, and I expected. There's so many stories I have of friends where God divinely intervened in their life and they knew they were supposed to have another kid or they miraculously got pregnant. I said that too to God. Like if I miraculously get pregnant, even though I'm on birth control, I'll know it's you. And I invited that. I said like, like God, if this is in my story, if this is in my journey, and I'm not saying that he's necessarily sovereign. I think we have powerful choice involved, but I also know that I've heard stories where like I was a miracle child. You were a miracle child. Yeah. So I actually know miracle children are possible. And so many of my friends have miracle children stories. Yeah. So I had always prayed and felt like my heart was really open, and I had to go on the same journey of you as Like kids are not a burden. They don't ruin your life. There's just I think there's a lot of pain and trauma in both of our childhoods that made it so that, but I was just taking my time. I always thought, when I was a kid, I thought I'd have like 20 kids. I was an only kid. So I wanted a huge family.
Yeah.
All I wanted was
Which
to
drove my anxiety through the roof once you started talking like that.
Oh, yeah. And then I never imagined not having 6 kids.
Yeah.
Like 6 kids was like, that
like,
Pizzi's family grew up with 6 kids. Army? And I thought that is the magic number. It feels so good. Mm-hmm. Now there's people around all the time. Like the amount of pain I had from being an only child and having to take care of my mom. If you have, the more kids you have, the less pressure there is on everyone. Uh-huh. I mean, there's more pressure in other ways, but so I was very excited. Always thought I would have kids. Just felt like it's not the right time yet. It's not the right time yet. I'm too sick. I'm too sick. But I always thought I was about to be healed.
Yeah.
So I always thought I'll have kids as soon as I get healed.
Yeah.
Like that is what will happen. So I remember
now you're too old and your ovaries are dusty.
Oh, some people are going to be so offended by that.
So offended.
It was a joke, people. But when I turned 36, I had been working with my counselor about dissociating and living in denial and living in fantasy. And it's the first time that I faced, it's surprising, 36 to 12. That's 24 years of me being very sick.
Yeah.
But it had never occurred to me that that could last. And so in processing sickness, I had to face I actually don't know if this is going to go away magically. I don't know if this is going to get better and I'm just going to be fine. I don't have any ideas. So I have to actually process then do I want to have kids sick or do I not want to? And it's interesting because one of the things that made it so hard for me to go on this journey was the idea of not having a kid that was like you. Like that is something that I just liked you. I liked you so much.
She said liked as in a past tense. So you can see where this is leading.
I liked you so much. And I thought, if I could have another human being that has any of the parts of you, either they look like you or they act like you or they have any of your quirks, that would be so endearing to me.
When I think about that, you saying that, I'm like, yeah, I'd want many of me too.
And so I really had that in my heart. And so I started processing sickness and who knows what this will be. And I think also really processing a hysterectomy, in case I needed that.
Right.
And realizing, this isn't what I thought my life would be. And I just remember there being all of a sudden so much grief about the subject because this isn't what I thought. I thought I'd get married. I'd have a bunch of kids. I'd have a huge family. That's what I had planned my whole life. That was my dream. Then I got married, had no kids, and all of a sudden I'm still sick. That's not what I saw for my life. That wasn't how I saw it unfolding. And I was devastated. It's hard when you had such a clear vision of what you thought life would be.
Which happens for a lot of people.
I think everybody.
This is what my life's going to be. I have it all plotted out in my head. It's going to look exactly like this.
Yeah. And I started my daydreams about my life when I was 7. Uh-huh. When you're dreaming of having your own kids, it's built in innately. And so I remember starting to feel a little bit of pity, maybe this doesn't feel fair because I don't feel like I chose not to have kids. Mm. That's what it felt like. I didn't choose that I didn't want kids. I chose that I was too sick. So it felt like the choice got robbed from me.
Yeah.
It felt like I felt like a victim to the circumstance. And I know, I know I could have chosen kids while being sick. I'm powerful. I could have made different choices. I think I just kept thinking things were going to change in my life until I hit a point when I recognized I've been living in denial.
Right.
And it was pretty devastating for me. And processing the idea of not having kids. And it was interesting because my doctor was talking about wanting me to get off birth control. I'd used birth control because it was the only thing that had kind of helped my hormones, even though I was on the lowest amount that you could use, but it kind of helped. And so my doctor was with my other health problems, is like, we have to get you off everything in order for you to reset your body.
Yeah.
And so I knew I either have to be ready to have kids, but I'm really sick, or you need to get a vasectomy. And it was literally, I don't know what happened, but I felt that thing inside of me, that intuition that I follow. That sounds gross, right? Is that where you went?
No. I'll elaborate on my chuckle in a minute.
Okay.
Go.
But I like all of a sudden was like, you know what? I actually think it's time for Justin to get a vasectomy.
Which is why I'm laughing, because you're like, yes, that feels right to me. He should get the vasectomy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would sound great to me too if it was turned around.
Well, you had offered our first year.
Yeah.
So I was just taking you up on your offer.
Do you want to, can I elaborate for a moment on that? Because I think it was a really beautiful story of what happened with the vasectomy.
Mm-hmm.
I found this amazing doctor who was like friends with John Elway or something. I can't remember.
Went to high school with him, I think.
Yeah, played football with him. And he was just a guy's guy, but also like a dad figure and stuff like that. Such a good guy. And we had this beautiful moment in the surgery room where he just starts laughing his ass off as he realizes that a smiley face had been drawn down in that region, especially for him.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. That was my beautiful vasectomy story. And he said that
made him laugh.
Yes. And he was like, are you sure that's what you wanted to do to a guy down?
Who's cutting around?
Who's cutting around down here? And I would hear him chuckle every few minutes. And I'd look at him like groggily, and he'd just shake his head at me and just keep going for it. That's my vasectomy story.
Yeah.
And I'm sticking to it.
All of a sudden
He won't forget me.
He won't forget you.
I won't forget him.
No.
We had a thing.
That's true. So I had all of a sudden one day I woke up and I knew it's time. I could feel it. I felt the intuition. I had been waiting my whole life to feel that about getting pregnant.
Right.
The feeling of it's time.
Yeah.
And the inner knowing that this was the right next thing to do.
And I felt it too. I was like, yeah, you're right. This is what we're supposed to do. And again, I had surrendered to the possibility of us having kids and whatever.
Yeah.
In my own process.
Yeah, you actually had to process a little bit when I said, let's get a vasectomy.
Yeah, I was like,
wait,
oh,
I had come over enough to your side that now I have to process it again.
That's pretty permanent, because like I can't go make replicants of me. like, what if I wanted to birth a bunch of Justins through other host women? I can't.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
An army of Justins.
Oh, that would be great, though.
Wouldn't it?
The world would be a better place.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, I felt it. I knew it was right. You went and did it. And I remember in that moment, I had this feeling all of a sudden, the thing I was having such a hard time letting go of being like, but I love somebody that had parts of you. And I just remember all of a sudden the thought was like, I guess if we adopt, I could pray that we adopt a child that has personality traits. Like,
yeah,
I could actually just pray for that.
Or that cloning ends up having some growth leaps and bounds within the next 20 years.
Yeah, either one.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of like silenced this thing in my heart that had a hard time letting go. And then began grief process and really looking at all of the reasons, I had to grieve. I was mad. I had to face my anger about our marriage and how that felt like it stole kids from us. And then anger at my body and how I felt like that stole kids from us. And I remember, because up until the point of realizing I may never have kids. And I remember, I think I've said I've remembered 25 times. I'm telling stories. Obviously, I remember them. But I had this conversation with my pastor, and I said, what if this was the moment that the tide turned for me about kids?
Mm-hmm.
I realized I could have a girl. Like, that sounds like a crazy thing. Obviously, you could have a girl. But it's like, 50-50. Who knows if you'll get a girl or a boy. But my mom had crazy hormones the way that I have had crazy hormones.
You didn't want to pass that on to someone else.
And when I realized, and you can tell me, and I know, that's why I said, like, if God had led me, I would have definitely jumped into faith. And you know, like my best friend, she has autism in their genes, and she knew she could have an autistic child, and she wanted children. And I think that's beautiful. So I actually love that mindset. But the amount of horror that I have gone through in my body, like if you've gone through a crazy amount of suffering, like a crazy, crazy, crazy amount, the idea of giving that to someone else feels so horrible. Like when I thought, when I thought about having a daughter, having to go through what I've gone through, something in me like broke. I was like, I couldn't do this to a girl. I couldn't. Like I said, it's probably hard to understand unless you've gone through, because my periods have been crazy physical suffering and crazy emotional suffering. It's not just one. It's both. It's kind of like the idea of if you've had cancer or some heavy sickness like that, and being like, I want to put someone through, I'm going to somehow purposely bring a person in the world and hand them cancer and be like, here you go. Yeah. Here's my cancer journey. Hope you enjoy it. Like that's kind of a way to compare it. Some sort of sickness. I want to be careful because I know that parents choose to have children that could have some kind of thing. And I think there's a beautiful gift in that. They have a value for life.
Sure. I understand
and they love their children.
But it's like you identified with the pain that you went through and was like, I don't know that I can.
And I didn't think I could handle watching someone else have to go through. That way. Unless you've gone through something horrifically traumatic, it's hard to compare. Yeah. For you to understand. But it has been living in my body has been so hard. And I'm getting so much healing and working through so much. And I feel really thankful for that. And I kept thinking, like, if I thought it would happen in time for me to have kids. But when I realized I could have a daughter, I processed that with my pastor, and I'm so thankful that I had an empathetic. Honestly, men have been very empathetic with me with my hormone problems, probably more so than women, which is ironic. But I think he just gave me permission and was like, if you don't want to have kids, if you don't want to pass it on, if that seems too hard to you, that's okay. And I think it was really, and I know that we shouldn't need permission. Like, as humans, we should be able to do whatever we want. Right. But I think it helped your soul. What?
It helped your soul.
It really did. It helped me be able to say, like, okay. And I think there's something where you're like trying to figure out, am I being emotional? Am I triggered? Is this an unreasonable, like, is this something I should work through or not? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I think it felt really helpful to have him just meet me and being very kind. Yeah. About it. And so that is actually the thing that then triggered me to be able to not have kids. And that was the decision moment. The moment when I was like, I can't do this to a girl. I thought, okay, I think I'm never going to birth a child from my body. And that brought on so much grief in areas of like, it's like you always imagine, you go to baby showers, you hear your friends' birth stories. You're always even just like wondering, like, what would I be like in labor? Like Justin helped deliver our friend's baby. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, that'll be really fun when me and him do that together. Mm-hmm. Like that'll be really bonding. Oh, we're not going to do that now. And there's a lot of, also, I'm a little competitive, so I wanted to see how I could do in labor. I'm like, I got a great pain tolerance. Let's see how I can handle this.
Gonna beat all those moms out there.
I'll beat you all. And like having a baby, that like the bonding process, I think I always felt like pregnancy is such a sacred thing because you're literally, a baby's being knit inside of you. And so the idea of never getting to feel a child inside of me, and there was a lot of pain. And I remember it felt weird to have pain because for years I didn't care, like I had so many things I was processing besides that. I never was the person at a baby shower that was sad about it. And I remember
And do you remember me telling you I'd be willing to carry this child for us? And you still were like, nah, I don't want you to get to have that experience, Justin, if I can't have it.
Yeah.
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 So I didn't.
You're a dork. Yeah. We recorded a podcast one day after I went to a baby shower, and it was the first time that I had feelings come up about it, and I actually shared about how the pain that I allowed to come up and finally allowing myself to feel and grieve. And then we didn't put it out because I wasn't ready for us to do that. But I remember going to this bridal baby shower, and I was actually so excited. I felt no negative emotions. I went there to this shower, and my friend had been trying to get pregnant for years, and it was a miracle baby. She finally got pregnant. She used in vitro. It was a miracle baby, and it was like, I was going there. Nothing feels better to me than somebody who's waited for something for a long time and it finally happening for them, because it feels so hopeful. I feed on that for my own soul. I'm like, oh, good things are going to come for me too.
Yeah.
Like, this happened for you. It can happen for me. And so I went to the baby shower fully expecting it to be like this thing that just filled me with hope for my own life. And I got there and it just hit me. Like, it just shook me like I was not expecting it. And part of it was like her mom got up at the shower and was giving like a speech, and she got up, and then her mother, and I was just like, there were so many things. I was like, I don't have a mom, who could ever be there for me. Who, like, I don't have, I mean, your mom would be there, but I mean, like, my mom, I don't have a mom that could be on that journey with me. And then also, like, I'm never going to go on this journey. And I started crying uncontrollably. Didn't mean to. So embarrassing. There's like 80 of people from there. It's like this like super big deal. And accidentally I got seated like right in the front where everybody could see me, and I'm just like weeping, and I'm trying to pretend that it's like happy weeping. But I'm like just so overwhelmed with like, this is never gonna happen. I'm never gonna have a baby shower because I'm pregnant, and I'm never gonna have this experience. And so I actually, like, as soon as the like they were like giving speeches and praying and doing all that stuff, as soon as that was over, I just looked at one of my friends, Kate Zick. This is like one of my favorite moments with her, and I just like grabbed her and went to the bathroom and just like wailed, like just wept about how sad it was that this wouldn't be my life, and saying like, I didn't feel like I chose this. Like, I feel like my body chose this, and I didn't feel like this isn't what I wanted. I wanted to have a family. This isn't how I saw my life going. And I just wept, and she just cried with me, which is like the best thing a friend can do in a situation like that. She has 4 kids, and she was just so empathetic and compassionate. And I love this. It wasn't like a fix it. Like, I sometimes actually freaking hate Christian culture that's like, well, just have faith. Well, you could have a miracle. I'm like, that's not the answer for me. Right. That's not what I'm looking for. I just need to grieve. I just want to be sad about this thing.
Right. She didn't even try to offer you one of her sons. Like, I'll make it better. You can have one of my kids. Like,
no,
even though there's probably one of them she wants to get rid of.
Everybody's gonna write in and be like, "Why is Justin so insensitive? Why I was crying on this episode?" He's making
that's the ebbs and flows of our heavy conversations.
Okay, so
I do love that she met you like that.
Yeah, it was really, really it was beautiful. It was a little bit embarrassing. I couldn't pull my face together, like with whatever makeup we both had in our purses. My face was like swollen from I wept, and then swollen. It was unfixable. And then as I walked back out I walked back out of the room, and my other best or really good friend, Katrina, grabbed me because she just looked me in the eyes, grabbed me, pulled me back into the room and was like, "Are you okay? What's going on?" And then I just wept with her, which didn't help because I'd tried to already clean up. But I was so proud of myself because I knew in the moment, I'm not one of those people to steal from someone's celebration.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really good at celebrating other people. I love being on that journey. So I don't recommend, if you are sad over having kids, I don't think you should cry at every baby shower that you go to. Like,
you've been to actually a bunch of them.
Yeah.
So, and
absolutely.
never had any response.
Yeah. And I'm not saying you can't cry after baby showers or whatever, but I'm just saying, I don't recommend ruining a moment for somebody else because you're feeling your own feelings. I like joining in the celebration. For me, though, I had never let myself go there.
Yeah.
I had never let myself feel that pain and that grief. And I knew when it came up, I mean, partially it was unstoppable, but partially I could have locked it down. And I knew I have to actually go here and allow myself. And I actually thought that was part of the gift of her story of hope, was allowing me to grieve and to see. And I think that it's an interesting thing. It's like very full circle, like grieving not having a mom and not getting to be a mom in the same thing.
Yeah. Wow.
It's like a very big, like, and I think that there's a lot of, like I had a lot of grief over the idea of having kids without a mom. Like, it's really sad. And so it was a good night. They loved on me. Then I walked back out, and literally after Katrina, then every person who saw me was like so worried about me. So I just left. I was like, I cannot have 20 other people.
That would raise my anxiety so much. And also shame button would start hitting. Like, I'd be triggering in shame so much.
I felt
no,
shame.
this is becoming about me. I have to get okay, they're just going to think about me leaving.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't actually even worried about leaving. There was 80 people there, but I knew if I stayed, everybody, it'd become a spectacle.
It would trickle into a spectacle.
Everybody would be like, "What's wrong with Abby? Is she okay?" And I was like, I don't want that. And I don't want pity. So I left, and I felt like it was really good to leave. And so, okay. Feelings. I've got lots of feelings coming up.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. I think that there was a lot of the pain that I had. It probably took me at least a year, maybe a year or two, to process my life isn't going to look like what I thought. And honestly, so many people I know are in this. Like, I have friends who are single who never thought they'd be single at the age that they are.
Yeah.
I have friends that are married and want kids and can't have kids, and they never thought it'd be hard to have kids. There's Pizzi, who has an autistic daughter. She never envisioned that her life would be run by autism.
Yeah.
There's my friends whose husbands died. They never thought they'd be a single mom again. There's people who had a child who died. A lot of life isn't what we thought it would be.
Yeah.
And
big curveballs.
I think that it's an important thing to learn how to grieve what isn't so you can accept what is.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't grieve and don't get to acceptance.
Oh, I agree.
And so they're stuck.
And they become bitter.
Yeah.
And resentful and depressed.
Yeah.
Like, it becomes a journey, that lack of accepting what is, grieving what isn't, and accepting what is. The lack of that journey ends up imploding in on someone.
I think that I feel a lot of, I want to give hope to people because life is such a juxtaposition, it isn't what you expect. As thinking, I know so many people who they didn't expect to be divorced. They didn't expect to have their partner cheat on them. They didn't expect, there's so many curveballs that happen for everybody. And yet there's so much hope and goodness and gifts of redemption and gratitude that come up in the midst of life not looking like what we thought it would. And I feel personally just like the journey of acceptance has been so healing for me.
Yeah.
And I really honestly feel like I'm going to have waves of grief, but I have waves of acceptance and so much hope for the story that is being written. And I don't feel like the story is over for me. And so I actually just want to take a couple minutes and pray for a couple of groups of people.
Yeah.
And in our next episode, like I share much more about like the place of acceptance and hope and vision. I have a lot of vision for my future and hope for my future. And I feel like I've surrendered what I thought my life was going to look like. I've accepted what my life looks like. And I feel hopeful for what my future will be, even if it looks different than originally what I imagined.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy task to do. And I think in your 30s and 40s and 50s is where people hit that spot of like, this isn't what I thought it was going to look like.
Big time.
And it can feel really disillusioning and really disappointing.
Mm-hmm. How did I get here? What dreams that I had, are they not happening? Are they ever going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think it's really good to grieve that. And I think there's a rebirth that can happen inside of us when we let go of what we thought was going to be and then find out who we can become for our future. But I just want to pray for a couple groups of people. The first group is ironically, I have, and I think that this isn't so ironic. I think that this is sometimes we get like redemption in areas that we've had a lot of pain.
Yeah.
But I have such a high track record of praying for people who want to have children and them getting miraculously pregnant. Mm-hmm. It's like a special anointing that I have. Maybe because I always pray for people's sex lives more than just a baby, but both. So I wanted to start with that. If you're listening and you want to have children, I have so much faith for this. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to just pray. So God, we just ask that you would come and that you would align every woman who wants to get pregnant, that you would align her body. God, that you would bless her sex life, that you would bless her intimacy, that sex would be fun and about connection, and that there would be love, and it'd be love making, and there'd be passion and joy, and it wouldn't be something that they're trying to do to make a baby, and it wouldn't be fearful or high pressure or high stakes or stressful, but it would actually be the joy of sex again. God, the disappointment and the fear and all of the thoughts that can go so circular, that you'd begin to silence those thoughts, that you'd bring bodies and minds and spirits into perfect peace, into perfect love, into perfect harmony, that people would function the way that they were designed to function, that the stress would be lifted, that the burdens would be lifted, that you would give grace for people to surrender, that their bodies would surrender and wombs would open and that babies would be carried full term.
Yeah.
So God, we ask that you would divinely, miraculously intervene in women's bodies that are asking for pregnancy, that this would be the year that they get pregnant and they give miracle. And just like me and Justin are testimonies of miracle births, we just release miraculous births over everyone who is wanting to get pregnant.
Yeah. And Dad, for people who are listening who relate to this story, but it's not over babies. It's about another part of their life that they're processing through, accepting and figuring out what it's going to look like and feeling those pains. Dad, would you just bring your comfort to them right now? Especially where people are just like, there's a heightened emotional experience that's kicked in through listening to this, that they'd feel comfort, care, love, peace, understanding for their journey, that questions that they're battling with would begin to get answered. Maybe not with the answers that they think that they're supposed to have, but just answered in a way that settles their soul. And they go, oh, I feel like I have the information I need to find my peace, to find my joy, to grieve the way that I need to grieve, to get to happiness, that whatever it is that they graciously need in this moment, that they would be met with it in some way, shape, or form. And for people who have found themselves feeling really hopeless, like waking up and going, this isn't the life I dreamed of, and I just feel hopelessness about it, that hopelessness would shatter, that there would be a sense of hope that rises up inside of them, where there begin to be like a vision that's cast for what their unique story is going to look like. That all of a sudden they could be like, I don't know, I just started seeing vision for what my story is, and it doesn't have to look like everyone else's story. And there's beauty ahead of me, and beauty in what has already happened, that the good parts of their story could be seen.
We just release redemption and hope and vision for a future where there's life. And I give women and men hearts permission to grieve and to feel and to have those moments where you wail out, this isn't what I thought it was going to be, so that you can actually receive love and comfort from friends and from the Holy Spirit, that there would actually be a place that you could have sacred pain. And I break off pity and bitterness where sometimes we get lost in grief, that you would actually just be able to feel your feelings, but not drown in them. And that there would be grace that is released on your life through listening to this, where all of a sudden that thing that you've been wrestling with, that lie that you've been believing, like, oh, maybe I'm just not loved, maybe I'm not as special, maybe things won't just work out for me, that whatever the lie that is attached to the pain of life looking different, that would be broken, and that truth would resonate and resound, that people would know, I am loved, I am seen, I am known, I matter, there are good things for my future. Every part of my life is redeemable. There is not one area in my life that has to live in loss and lack and death forever. There is always resurrection after death. There is always resurrection after death. There's always resurrection after death. And so we just release the grace of God, the miraculous working power to break through the heaviness, the depression, the despair. I call you out of despair. Oh daughter, I call you out of despair, oh son, that you could stand back up into hope for your life. I remember when I was so sick and I felt so such despair and like, I'm never going to live, and this isn't what I thought life would be. I'm never going to be able to do anything. And there's something inside of me that got up and had to start yell praying, when I was like, no, there is a hope for my future. No, there is redemption for my story. No, this isn't the end of my story. No, this isn't how it ends. And so I release that fight inside of some of you who've laid over and given up. I give you permission to fight, to remember that there's good for your story again. And you get to co-write your story by what you choose to engage with. And so, God, we ask for grace and love and comfort. In Jesus' name, amen. And you'll need the hope. The next session is next week's has got lots of hope. Yeah. It's going to be a good one. We're going to grieve first, hope later. So, hey, if you got anything from this, rate, review, subscribe, share it with someone who needs a dose of hope, needs to not feel alone in their journey. We have an ebook that Justin wrote that's hysterical. From Crappy to Happy. And it literally builds on all of the principles we're talking about how to be powerful and how to turn crappy to happy. So you can get that at Justin and Abby, that's abi.com. It's free. Free ebook. We also have the Compassion Project, which is what is it? It's an online series. It's an e-course. That's what I was looking for. It's something. It's an e-course that I'm so proud of. And it's one of the ways that people can connect to themselves, learn how to have self-compassion, learn how to validate their feelings. Everything we process on this podcast is based from the principles in the Compassion Project. So get that. Get it. Get that stuff. Get it. And goodbye.